Hello, you guys. Welcome back. This is lesson 2, and we'll be discussing storage and security. How can you run a bank without understanding how to properly store and protect your wealth or protect your funds, right? So that's what this lesson is all about, security and storage. We'll be going over some things about how to properly store it, things to avoid so that you don't lose, right? So that you don't become a victim of theft, or so that you don't become a victim of your own, undoing by simply losing, access to your own Bitcoin, right? So let's go ahead and just jump right in and let's get started. Let's first dive into storage, right? Because storing our own assets is something totally new for most of us. When we buy houses, right, we don't have to worry about storing houses because it's on a plot of land. When we, buy gold, most of the time in today's age, most people don't actually physically get their hands on the actual gold itself. So storage is already taken care of for that. Art, we obviously know that there's different methods of storing that. You put it in a warehouse, you hang it up on your wall, or maybe you lease it out to a museum or something, right? Bitcoin is something that is digital, so our storage methods are a bit different. We have two forms of storage primarily. One is called hot storage, one is called cold storage. Let's start with cold storage. Cold storage is typically Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies that's stored in an actual hardware device, right? It's a hardware device that's similar to a USB, but has much more encrypted security, right? The purpose of cold storage is so that your Bitcoin does not have access to any type of internet connection. So it makes it very difficult for somebody to access unless they physically have access to your cold storage or hardware device. And even if they have access to it, they will still need certain information in order to access that Bitcoin. Okay, so finally, the last thing that you need to know about cold storage is that it's typically used to store your long-term assets. So you put something in cold storage when you don't plan on touching it for a long time, right? So most of the time you'll see holders or you'll see people who have Bitcoin in cold storage and they haven't touched it for years because they understand, like we learned at the beginning of this course, that the long-term investors and the long-term viewpoint and outlook is oftentimes the most successful or the most predictably successful, right? And we don't want to take too many chances when it comes to building our wealth. So we have to have that long-term storage to keep those assets safe over the next few years until those assets mature enough for us to actually use and gain some real world value out of. So now let's jump into hot storage. Hot storage is pretty much what it sounds like. It's the exact opposite of cold storage. Hot storage is typically things that you have instant access to. So a form of hot storage can be a wallet that you have stored on your cell phone, or maybe a wallet that you have stored on your desktop or laptop computer. Or it's a wallet that's stored on your web browser, something like MetaMask, right? Where you can send a small amount of Bitcoin to this wallet in case you have to use it in this new digital ecosystem that's being created, right? And we'll get into MetaMask a little later. Those are all examples of hot storage and what you would use hot storage for. So that's the difference between cold and hot storage and the role that it'll play in managing your different assets as you build this digital bank. So let's move on to the next level of security, right? There's this thing called 2FA. 2FA stands for two-factor authentication. So you've likely experienced this before if you've signed into an account and they said, hey, let's validate or let's verify that it's you. We'll send you an email or we'll actually send you a text message, right? And that is a second layer of verification that you are who you say you are, so that whatever is inside that account is actually protected. So 2FA in terms of cryptocurrency is very important because we know that once cryptocurrency is sent or stolen or taken, is very difficult to get back because there are no chargebacks. You're operating in a decentralized system. So you have to be responsible for your own assets. So the way that two-factor authentication works in Bitcoin is whenever you're about to log into any of your exchange accounts or any type of important accounts that have access to your Bitcoin or any of your crypto assets, you'll be given an option or you'll be given a prompt to put in this 6-digit code that changes every 30 seconds that only you will have access to. So this is actually set up during the initial phases when you set up your accounts with different exchanges. Most of the time, they'll actually make it a requirement. I would advise you to go into your settings, go into the security, and click the two-factor authentication button so that it prompts you to set up two-factor authentication. And what this does is if anybody tries to log into your account, maybe your credentials are compromised, right? And they try to log in. If they don't have that two-factor authentication code that changes every 30 seconds, they won't be able to access your information, even if they have your login credentials. So how do we get two-factor authentication set up? There's two options that I typically use. There's one app. These are all apps that you can use on your Android or your iPhone or your Apple device, right? The first app is called Google Authenticator. The other option is an app called Authy, Authy. But what these apps do is they will store a second tier of verification for any of your accounts that require two-factor authentication. So once you have these apps or one of these apps downloaded and you add two-factor function to the account that you would like to add it to, it's going to present a QR code. You'll pull out this app and you'll scan that QR code with your phone. Once you scan that QR code, the app will actually register what that website is, and you can actually change that to whatever you want that represented as. And it'll give you your first authentication code, which will be 6 digits. That exchange or whatever you're looking to put that two-factor authentication on will ask you what those 6 digits is. As soon as you put those 6 digits in for the first time, that account is now linked to your two-factor authentication. And boom, now you have an extra layer of security on your crypto assets as you navigate throughout this free market, knowing that your assets are protected and safe, at least as far as you're able to be in control of. So we've talked about cold storage versus hot storage. We've talked about two-factor authentication. Now let's talk about some do's and some don'ts of just operating in this new digital ecosystem, right? Because it's very risky to have an asset that once it's sent, there's no way to pull it back. You can fight someone for a property if they try to steal that property. You can fight someone for a piece of art if they try to steal that, right? But when it comes to Bitcoin, once it's gone, it's gone. It's very, very difficult to get back. So let's go over some do's and don'ts of operating in the crypto environment and storing and protecting these digital assets. Number one, never, ever tell anybody how much Bitcoin or how many crypto assets or how much you have invested in crypto. For one, it's none of their business. Two, that's a security risk because that's a big red flag, right? That's a big flag over your head for any potential bad actors who want to target you and create some type of sophisticated attack against you and your crypto assets. So that's the first thing. Never tell anybody how much you have in Bitcoin or any other crypto asset. It's none of their business. If you're running your own digital bank, you have to practice operational security. Here's another item on this very important do's and don't list. When you download your wallet, when you install a wallet to hold your crypto assets or your Bitcoin, they'll give you a passphrase. This passphrase can be anywhere from 12 to 24 words, right? This is very important in case that app decides to go down or in case you have to access your Bitcoin from another way. So that's to protect you. Now, if you give access to those private keys or that passphrase to someone, they'll be able to take your Bitcoin right off the blockchain because they don't have to access it from that wallet. Which leads me to another important point. Please understand that the wallet is not what holds your Bitcoin. The wallet apps are simply a window into the blockchain and lets you see how much Bitcoin is stored at that particular address. So if someone has your private keys or your passphrase, they can access that Bitcoin on the actual network itself and swindle you for all of your Bitcoin or all of your crypto. So be very careful about how you protect your passphrase. All right, so we've listed 2 don'ts, right? So now let's get into a couple of do's when it comes to securing and storing your Bitcoin. So whenever we send Bitcoin or any type of cryptocurrency asset, it's very important that we double check, triple check the actual address. An easy way to do it is to double check and make sure the first 4 digits and the last 4 digits of that address match. Make sure that they're the exact same, right? So you don't want to get any numbers misconstrued or anything like that, because your Bitcoin can actually go to the wrong address. And as we said before, if it goes to the wrong address, there's no way that you're getting that Bitcoin back. So finally, the last big thing that I have to let you guys know about is most people don't lose their Bitcoin because someone hacked their wallet or something crazy happening on the blockchain, right? In all actuality, most people give their Bitcoin up because they're scammed, they're finessed somehow, right? They'll get these emails or they'll get these text messages, or somebody will reach out to them on social media and present some type of offer to them that often sounds too good to be true. And whenever something sounds too good to be true, 9 times out of 10, it is. So what we see is that they'll oftentimes offer these things where it's, hey, you send us some Bitcoin or you send us some type of digital cryptocurrency and we'll send you double back, or we'll send you triple back, or we'll give you some type of exuberant return. Those are red flags. Stay away from those. Protect your assets, right? Anytime you're putting money into anything, into this new decentralized ecosystem, research, vet, and then vet some more. Although there's a huge amount of potential in this space, there's a ton of risk, because we're still putting this system together. We're still putting this ecosystem together. We're still figuring out ways to avoid scams. We're still figuring out different protection measures. So it'll always be changing. But these very simple techniques should be enough to really protect your assets in a way that you don't have to worry about someone's coming to steal your Bitcoin or any other crypto assets that you have. So a really quick recap. We went over what's cold and hot storage. We went over 2-factor authentication and why that's important. We went over a few do's and don'ts. And then lastly, we went over, the main thing is to just avoid getting scammed. So we'll wrap this up. And once again, I thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.